Good morning. How are you doing, Scott?
Good morning, Arrow. I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. This is one of those moments where you go, what took so long? And yet, as a somebody who's been in radio for 4 decades, I'm going, oh, my God, thank you so much for taking so long. I think I respect it even more.
Yeah, right. I assume you're talking about how long it took a book to come out for for the Mamas and the Papas. Yeah, I wrote a book in the style that I like to read, so I think a lot of people will gain a lot of knowledge and learn a few things that they didn't know before about the Mamas and the Papas.
You bring up a very interesting point there. You like to write in the way that you read. Boy, that'll drive editors crazy because they want to get you to write the way they want to write.
Yeah, right. I was very fortunate in that I submitted my manuscript, and there were very few changes that needed to be made. So I had a great team of editors. Either I did a really good job, or they just didn't care.
and people are going to pick up this book, All the Leaves Are Brown, because right away they're going to go, those musicians, those bands. There's always love affairs. I want to see the dirt first.
Right, and I also followed up with "And the Sky is Gray" too. So, it's just it was a great title we picked, and yeah, and the funny thing was everything about the Mamas and the Papas is titled "California Dreamin'." And I was like, I don't want this book to be called California Dreamin'. Yeah. But we came, we got the next best thing. We got the opening, that famous, maybe one of the most famous opening lines to any song ever.
Yeah. So now when you say we got it, was that something that you had to go in search of to get permission to use it?
Oh, no, not at all. It's something I just came up with on my own when they asked me what do you want to title the book. I said All the Leaves Are Brown. There was a compilation, actually a collection put out several years ago of all the Mamas and the Papas Dunhill recordings, everything they had put out, and it was called All the Leaves Are Brown. Wow. And that just stuck with me. And then I came up with the subtitle, which obviously separated it from that. I had a different subtitle when I first submitted. I don't even remember what it was called, but then I came up with how they came together and broke apart, because that's really what the book is all about.
There's a lot of shock in this book. I didn't know that John Phillips wanted Mama Cass out. That would be like firing Paul Stanley from Kiss. You can't do that.
Right. Well, he didn't want her in. Once he wanted a trio. He wanted a Peter, Paul, and Mary kind of trio, because he was into folk music. He wasn't really into rock and roll. Hearing Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds kind of opened his ears to the possibilities, because it was a rock and roll song with a very folk arrangement written by a folk music superstar in Bob Dylan. So, and sung by his people he knew, Roger McGuinn and David Crosby and a few others. And he did not, so he wanted to kind of go along in a Peter, Paul, and Mary. So in it kind of idiom, and then he had a trio in mind. So when Cass came into the picture, it's like, she really kind of really horned her way in, thanks to her perseverance, and we all benefited from that. But John wasn't taken by it, at least initially, at least for the first 6 months. And then when they auditioned for Lou Adler at Dunhill, and he liked how they sounded with her, there was just no going back. And I think he grew to appreciate her contribution. I don't know that they ever got along so well, but he definitely appreciated the sound and the success that she helped contribute.
I've always, and this is the wacko in me, I've always compared the sounds and the story of the Mamas and the Papas with Fleetwood Mac. To me, they remind me of each other's stories.
Yeah, they're very similar. That you had husbands and wives and boyfriend and girlfriend, and some of it mixed and intermingled, and and not necessarily for the Mamas and the Papas. It was much more toxic from the get-go, because not long after they got signed to Dunhill Records, and it comes to light that Michelle and Denny had slept together, and just drives John into a wall and almost breaks him up from the beginning. But they stuck it out. The rise of California Dreamin' on the charts really brought Denny and John back together. And then they realized they had to ride this wave as long as they could, and there was a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and they lasted for 3 years in those circumstances. I don't know how many people could last much longer than that, though.
And of course, one of the things that I've always loved about the Mamas and the Papas is that when they would release a song, and we didn't realize it at the time that it would be with us for the rest of our life. Like Monday, people go Monday all the time. I mean, we should be paying them.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, royalties every day. We should be paying them.
Yeah, and John wrote that song. He wrote it when he was with the Journeymen. He started writing it, and then it was never recorded until he went in with the Mamas and the Papas and Lou Adler. And Denny and Michelle and Cass hated that song. They thought it was stupid. Like, who writes a song about the day of the week? But John and Lou Adler, their producer, were like, no, you guys don't understand. This is something that everybody can relate to, and it's not even about Mondays. It's about a woman leaving him, but we just associated it. It was used on a couple of years ago. It was used for a Monday Night Football ad.
Yeah. What's really interesting about this book, All the Leaves Are Brown, is the fact that, yes, they were a quartet. Yes, he wanted it to be a trio. But the thing about it is, though, they were all individuals. That's what I like to see in this book, is that it's like, oh, my God, they were all their own selves. They just happened to come together.
And they were a shared experience, when they kicked Michelle out in '66, when it came to light she was having an affair with Gene Clark of the Byrds, and they replaced her with Jill Gibson. That just didn't work because Michelle had been with them from the beginning. She was with them when they were in the folk groups and doing the tours and riding the buses and sleeping in the dirty hotels and wearing the same clothes day after day after day. And going to the Virgin Islands, then driving to Los Angeles. It was a collected experience by these four individuals, a shared experience that you just couldn't pull out one cog and replace it with another. They had to be together because Michelle had that edge to her that Jill Gibson did not.
You talk about those tough early beginnings in the hotels and everything like that, but yet they grew into a well-pampered band.
Yeah, for sure. They kind of rested on their laurels, which was kind of a death knell for anybody in that situation. You got to go out and meet your fans. You got to tour relentlessly if you want to maintain the status of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones like they did. But considering the circumstances, it just wasn't going to happen. There was just too much tension. I think that prevented that, and then coupled that with wanting to do 5-star everything. It was just doomed from the start.
I'm so jealous of these modern day teenagers in the way that they can just go to YouTube or Spotify or even iHeartRadio and just pick up this music and the band continues. I mean, we went through the silent breakup growing up, but now, I mean, it's almost like they are still together because of technology.
Yeah, for real. And, thank goodness for that. I wish I had it when I was growing up. And, if I wanted to hear a song I loved on the radio that I couldn't buy, I had to try to wait till it to come on and then record it on my cassette, so those, and we thought that was really advanced back in those days. So, but but we all benefit from that. It's nice to just be able, let me see if I can find a John Phillips interview with on some show, and just find it, the Dick Cavett or something. You can find it. So
oh yeah, that's what I love about WeTV. Scott, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future, man. I want more than just 10 minutes with you.
Absolutely, anytime, Arrow.
Will you be brilliant today, okay, guy?
Thanks, you too.